very good evening, Anupam,
Good evening, indeed. Good
and
evening, Arnav, and everyone.
thanks for joining this podcast. It's always
Pleasure.
really fascinating interacting with you. I mean, we know each other probably for last 15 years or so because of our
Yeah,
professional uh, alignment, working together, and there are various other reasons also, which probably will
absolutely.
touch upon today. I mean, more than professional things, probably there are many other things which kind of made you and I interacted more often than not, and that some aspects of that
Absolutely, Arnav.
happen today. So people who do not know you, for them, so Anupam Bhattacharya is a sustainability professional working with a big four consulting firm. Currently, he's based out of Calcutta, and the work he does basically providing various, giving consulting advisory services to various industrial sectors on various aspects of sustainability. And he's also an avid traveler, nature traveler. Um, and more importantly, that reason actually a lot of people probably know him outside of his professional domain, that he's also a singer. He runs his own music group, which is based out of Calcutta, along with his wife and other friends. And I'm personally a big fan of Anupam's song. I remember actually that I still have a lot of your, the album, a lot of your music video saved in my computer. And whenever actually I need, I'm stressed out of due to my work, or I need a little bit of distractions actually from the daily mundane. I still actually go back to this video and listen to your songs actually, which give me a lot of uh, pleasure. And
Thank you, Arnav.
I'm not the only one actually. There are a lot of people who admire you because of your uh, 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 excellent voice. Actually, I would say. So I personally think, Anupam, that any conversation with you
Yeah,
outside professional area, whether it's at the beginning of the conversation or at the end of the conversation, can never be completed without listening your song. So if you don't mind and if you're comfortable,
okay.
you please sing a song actually for all of us, and then probably you can get into our actual conversation in today's evening podcast.
Sure. Thanks so much, Arnav. Thanks indeed. And every time it's always a pleasure to have worked with you, and every time we converse on multiple topics. So yes, I would definitely be very happy to sing. Essentially, I'm from Calcutta, so I'm not sure whether everyone who has joined here today would understand Bengali, but obviously I'll try to translate it afterwards. This is a Rabindranath Tagore's song, essentially on the rainy season, specifically how it happens in the forest when there is a rain. So this is what it is. I'll just go solo
Yeah.
on this without any music on the background. Yeah. হৃদয় আমার নাচে রে আজিকে ময়ূরের মতো নাচে রে নাচে রে শত বরণের ভাবই উচ্ছ্বাস কলাপের মতো করেছে বিকাশ আকুল পরাণ আকাশে চাহিয়া উল্লাসে করে যাচ্ছে রে অগুনির জলে বকুল শাখায় দোলায় কে আজি দুলিছে দোদুল দুলিছে দোদুল দুলিছে দোদুল দুলিছে ঝরকে ঝরকে ঝরিছে বকুল আচল আকাশে হতেছে আকুল উড়িয়া আলোক করিছে পলক কবরে খুশিয়া খুলিছে অগুনির জলে বকুল শাখায় দোলায় কে আজি দুলিছে দোদুল দুলিছে দোদুল দুলিছে দোদুল দুলিছে ঝরে ঘন ধারা নব পল্লবে কাঁপিছে কানন ঝিল্লির রবে তীর ছাপি নদী কল কল্ললে কল কল্ললে এলো পল্লীর কাছে রে, হৃদয় আমার নাচে রে আজিকে, ময়ূরের মতো নাচে রে, নাচে রে। ওকে।
Wonderful, wonderful, Anupam. And this is the golden voice which you are talking about. Few people probably have understood. Like I can see that Dr. Chakraborty, Dr. Banerjee, Suchi Smita has joined, so they understand Bengali, so they have probably understood. But if you follow understanding of everybody and people who will be actually listening to this podcast, the recorded version of podcast later for them, if you can just explain actually what are the message and the inner meaning of this song, of this Tagore song.
Yes, that's right. So Arnab, Rabindranath Tagore has been one of those composers and great poets that the world has ever produced. Essentially, he has composed many songs, and there is a specific genre that's there which is dedicated to nature.
Mhm.
And this was essentially from that genre itself, wherein it is actually talking about the forest, and whenever there is a downpour that's happening in a particular forest during the rainy season, how it all happens there in terms of how the how the trees feel, how the flowers blossom, and also at the same time how the composer himself felt while he was sort of composing. He started off with saying that as if his heart dances like the dance of a peacock, with seeing all these things that's happening in the nature, specifically during the rainy season. So that's actually the meaning of it in summary. And obviously he essentially talks about various elements of nature. He talks about the floral diversity in terms of there are mention of multiple say flowers, and also it is talking about some of the crickets that's there, the sound from the background of the forest, and etc. So largely this is what it is, Arnav.
That's excellent, Anupam. And uh, there is always probably a connection between the music and the nature. And it's not just about, I mean, we all know who know you personally that you are very passionate and about music and your love for music, and of course your ability to sing a song, which is probably a gifted skill you have. And also we know that you do a lot of traveling, which I'm saying that it is not just a regular tourism, but you do a lot of solo traveling when you
Absolutely.
actually seek for you are actually you look for some kind of a break from the daily mundane, from the mundane of your professional corporate job. You look for solace in nature. I know that you
Yeah.
go to some of the offbeat space places close to nature, and then you go alone. You do not take your family or friends, and you just go there and sit there. You do not go anywhere. You just remain there, stationary for one place for a long time, and you do probably a lot of introspection, and then you come back, probably doing nothing. I mean, a lot of people may think that what exactly you did. You are just confined yourself in one places in the lap of nature. So, do you see any kind of connection between your love and passion for music, and then your liking for seeking the solace in nature?
No, absolutely, Arnab. I think nature and music does share a very deep intrinsic connection, and that essentially resonates with the human spirit. Just for example, say the nature's rhythm. If you talk about, the rustling of the leaves, probably the ebbs and flow of the tides, or say for example the songs of the birds. All these things creates a symphony of life, and music actually captures these patterns and translates them into a larger perspective which we can feel and understand.
Mhm.
And this particular harmony is often found in the nature. And for example, this also sort of inspires the composers quite a lot, the music composers I'm talking about, who sometimes mimics it, sometimes they sort of mimic the sound of wind, or say for example the serenity of a flowing river in all the melodies that they kind of try to compile into their song. And also, as you talked about, find solace. Yes, definitely. I do find peace and solace after a hectic day at work, or probably a month's work. And what I have realized that both music and nature, both of these have extreme healing powers. They
Mhm.
can actually inspire you. They can make you emotionally stable, and these things actually transcends words. I mean, if I may say, it's beggar's description. This is something that you can actually feel. So largely both these things, both nature and music, as I believe, is that it kind of reminds us the beauty of balance and sort of a universal language that connects to all living beings. So that's something that's very close to my heart with respect to both music and nature, and that gives me a zone of comfort every time I'm traveled. Yeah,
That's really insightful and nice to know, and probably gives a very different perspective that how that that both music and nature has a healing power, and we kind of people like a lot of people who has general love for nature, not necessarily they're always sustainability professional.
absolutely.
They come from various sphere of life, but they find the solace in nature, and then probably that healing power of nature which we talked about work for them. So my question for you, Anupam,
Yeah,
with respect to our this evening's podcast, that you are a sustainability professional, nevertheless, right?
absolutely. Yeah,
So, and at the same times, you believe in that healing power of nature, and then you are a eco-tourist because you most of your vacations happen in nature destinations. So, do you think that this participating in ecotourism has a kind of power to promote certain sustainability cultures or sustainability practices among humankind?
yeah, absolutely, Arnav. I think this is a very good question. You see, what happens is like let us consider the very initial days of a kid. Okay, so what happens is our introduction to nature happens through some stories. Either our parents do talk about them, or probably our grandmothers spin a yarn with respect to that a story of a tiger, or probably story of a fox or something of that sort. And usually, what happens is nowadays, with the advent of mobile phones and etc., people keep seeing those reels and etc. Oftentimes, the Discovery Channel, scenario flashes. So that is how the initial introduction of us happen with us to the nature, so to speak, specifically those who are from the city regions.
Mhm.
Yeah, but then over a period of time, what happens is when that person goes to school, that little kid, grows up slowly and steadily, goes to school, then sort of start reading those food pyramids and ecology and all those concepts. So sometimes what happens is they become very bookish with respect to it. But then if they are exposed to nature through maybe a travel into biodiversity park or a national forest, or say for example any other biosphere research, it essentially gives them the window of opportunity wherein they can actually connect to whatever they have studied and what it is in reality. Now, because oftentimes what happens is, say for example, if there's a very very quick reel a little kid is seeing, he probably would see that okay, the tiger is just passing through. So maybe in his mind or her mind, it will be there that okay, every time I go to a jungle, probably I'll be able to see a tiger. Actually, it's not the scene. So the point in time he is exposed into the natural surrounding, he would get himself or herself familiarized with the different species that nature has to offer with respect to both floral and faunal diversity, and gets to understand, gets to the feeling. And also at the same time, I don't know, I believe that the more there is exposure to nature, we feel very small at the end of the day.
Mhm.
That okay, I mean, our existence becomes a question that we are essentially a part of a very very large ecosystem, and we are also part of a probably a very very big world wherein the resources are finite. So more and more a particular person from his growing age gets an exposure to the nature, definitely learns sustainability in much better manner than he or she can learn it from studying books only.
Okay, so if so, this very concept actually, which the people's participation in sustainability through ecotourism, like
Yeah,
when an ordinary, I always believe actually, and I have witnessed for more than a decade actually, when an ordinary human being takes part in ecotourism, either as an ecotourist or as a wildlife photographers, then despite not being a wildlife expert or sustainability expert or biodiversity expert, they act as a very powerful influencer among many other ordinary humans who have not yet experienced this. Because when they
Absolutely.
share actually what they have seen, exactly what they have seen, that when you go to the forest, when you go to the ecotourism destinations, you see everything around it. And whenever you see it and you share your experience with other people, or whenever you take photograph and you share your photographs with other people, then other people who have not yet experienced it, they get influenced, and
Yeah.
they kind of understand that how important actually the nature is for healthy living in this planet. And this is exactly
Yeah.
kind of theme which I have used in my book, Pseudo Ecotourism, in the shadow of the Bengal tiger. So you definitely have read that book, and
Yeah.
and so as an ecotourist and also as a sustainability professional, is there anything actually in this book or any particular chapter or any particular narration, a particular incident, which kind of uh, triggered certain thought process or influenced you also as a participant, and also as a practicing sustainability professional?
Yeah, indeed, Arnab. I think this book I have read it couple of times. Last time I was reading during the Durga Pujas, and
Mm.
that was essentially a great refresher for me. Frankly speaking, this has been a page turner for me because every page was actually exceeding expectation from the previous one. So I think it's been a great running example for me with respect to reading this book. I liked all of them, one after the other. But if I have to pick one of them, I would rather talk about the narrative from Sundarbans, both from this side and that side of the river.
Mhm.
Specifically, I also do have some sort of personal connect to it because I remember this was in 2020 at the beginning of the year when you and I were traveling in Chittagong, sitting on a
In Bangladesh.
rooftop hotel in Bangladesh, yeah, and essentially sharing stories about the Sundarbans. And I could also catch glimpses of some of the photos that you had taken during
Yeah.
your Sundarban trip.
In fact, in
Exactly.
fact, in
So,
fact, Anupam, sorry to interrupt you. Actually, some of the photographs regarding the tiger attack and the fisherman, all those things, which are
right,
cannot be shared with public, actually, which are never shared
exactly.
uh,
Yeah,
with public because those photos are so sensitive and disturbing. But I kind of, in a confidence, that showed you those photographs, and then we had conversation.
absolutely.
I remember that. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely, Asnab. So I think that one is very very close to my heart, and also I could recollect some of the personal experiences, like when you had lost your travel bag and computer and your cameras. You finally ended up getting back in Bangladesh, held up for some days, and then came back to Calcutta. I met you that day itself on office at the office. So I could actually relive all those memories, all those conversations that we had at a personal level. But essentially, if I talk about the other aspects of it. Specifically, if I talk about the Sundarbans that we see, there's a stark difference between the way Sundarban has been looked into or preserved in Bangladesh as well as in India. What I find out in Bangladesh, basis the discussion that we see on your book, is essentially more of commercial purpose. So Tiger is essentially an object of entertainment there. And you rightly pointed out in the shadow of the tiger, specifically, if I may say, in the context of Sundarban in Bangladesh. So they are creating this big amusement park and everything, wherein uh, it's not promoting the love for nature, but essentially it's a way to sort of develop a specific sector. I mean, I understand the socio-economic condition of that country as well. And interestingly, as I understand that the larger part of the delta falls on the other side in Bangladesh. But talking specifically about the the Indian side of it, Indian side of Sundarban. So I have been there in Sundarban couple of times. So just by reading the narratives that you have developed with respect to the crocodile who is basking there on the riverside, and probably the breathing roots or the muddy water or the small canals here and there, and the flying birds atop. So all those things I could actually revisit and recollect in my own memory, because I also have seen all those things as well. And the other thing that I did while I was reading your book, not only this particular chapter, was that I used to put my headphone in and I would put up a music of a jungle, sometime maybe music of a rainforest, sometime music of a swampy land. It actually happened a couple of times that probably I was sort of reading a specific chapter wherein you were talking about the false calls that is happening, the warning calls from all the animals in the jungle, and I'm also feeling the same thing in my ear. So that essentially gave me a feeling of that, as if I am there itself on that particular spot. The couple of other things, Arnab, while we were studying environmental science and environment management, we had always understood the concept of living with the nature, even if there are dangers in some of the cases, but then people have some way or the other, they have adopted the man and animal conflict. So in Sundarban, that is very much prevalent. Even in today's context, the scenario of the Nantu tiger that's been described, the way the fisherman was attacked by the tiger. I would rather say it's not attacked, because these are all part of that larger ecosystem. So we're all part of the food chain, and essentially that is where the socio-economic things come into the picture. I mean, I know that it's dangerous to be there, but then some way or the other we're trying to live in harmony. So these are a couple of things that I found interesting, and also the way you have sort of described the fact that the very large flora and faunal diversity that we're lucky that Sundarban is there in our country, because this is such a nice biodiversity spot for all of us to sort of encourage and understand. Last thing, Arnab, I think with respect to people like Riddhi, what you have mentioned very specifically on that particular context, I think we need people like Riddhi who essentially helps to look into the nature through different lenses, not
Riddhi was
only
my
from
nature
the
connect in Sundarban trip. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So I think we need person like him who essentially helps people to look at nature through different lenses. It's not all about tiger. It's not all about the big hero of the jungle or the king of the jungle. Rather, it's the jungle, or it's the nature in its sort of completeness. I mean, I would rather say holistically looking at nature differently. So not only focusing on a specific species, but then looking nature holistically. I think these are some of the things that resonated with me deeply, Arnav, from this portion of the book.
No, thank you, Anupam, for sharing your feedback as well as your insights actually after reading the book, and of course that uh, importance of realizing the holistic view of the forest. That is basically essentially the message which uh, I wanted to convey, and there are reasons behind that. Actually, probably we'll have more discussion on that on this as we go forward. But before that, actually, probably the one more question I'd like to ask you, that again I like to kind of rely on your expertise as a sustainability professional as well, not just an eco-tourist. Uh, so, is there any message you think which need to be conveyed to anybody who read this book or who participate in ecotourism activities? Um, um, uh, do you think that essential message need to be conveyed to the
Yeah,
people?
absolutely, Arnav. I think I have quite a few messages, not one or two. So
Mhm.
the first thing I would like to bring in an analogy here. I was watching cricket the whole day, India and New Zealand. Uh, I mean, I would like to relate to it to cricket. I think that was before 2010. I think Sachin Tendulkar and Steve Waugh, both of them were playing, and India were touring Australia that time. And in the past, what used to happen that, as we all know, the Indian cricket team, the moment they go to bat, specifically during Test match, they used to get bundled out very very cheaply. So
Mhm.
after a post-match sort of conference, Steve Waugh came in front of the journalist, and one of the journalists asked him that there is a growing complaints from the spectators, from the audience, and they are saying that we are unable to see good batting because the Indian team is getting all out very, very cheaply. So
Uh-huh.
Steve at that point in time had said that. I mean, they can see good fast bowling from Magra and Gillespie, from the Australian fast bowler. So if they're coming to see cricket, then essentially they should enjoy everything, every bit of it, be it the batting, fielding, or the bowling side of it. So I think there is, I mean, for every eco-tourist, or say, for example, the places that I have traveled, what I have seen that largely people have this interest to see the hero of the jungle.
Mhm.
Okay, it's like, so therefore tiger is something which is very much commoditized, like batting in cricket. So my message to whosoever is sort of willing to explore nature or explore any sort of forest reserve or something like that, uh, go there with open mind. Rather, don't go there with any expectation. Rather, go there with curiosity. I'm sure you would end up seeing many things. I'll say, for example, as I was mentioning previously as well, looking at a forest, looking at a sort of national park from a holistic point of view, not just for one specific species. I think as we all know, like our perspective differs. So if you are able to be mindful at a particular forest, you can enjoy many things. Maybe the falling of leaves to some of us, maybe this could be the most romantic thing that can actually happen, or probably the sunset through the that you can see through the in between the bushes, or the glimpses of the sky, or maybe the sudden silence that we see in a jungle, or maybe a warning call. So that would be my suggestion, that whenever you are going into any such trips, do consider being very mindful. Go there with curiosity, not with expectation. So that's one. Second one, Arnav, I would like to mention that with whatever travel that I have done in my life, I've been to many of these national park and other places. What I see that people actually become pretty adventurous going into those zones. Now, say for example, suppose I'm talking about, say, Jim Corbett. Okay, so I've seen this has happened with me. Those safari drivers would oftentimes insist that, okay, this is that place wherein the shooting of the film Carl had happened. So you might as well go down and take a photo there. Nothing will happen. So that's an insist that happens from those drivers also. But other than that as well, I have seen that many of us who are nature traveler, they become very enthusiastic about getting into the forest, taking photographs and doing things which are not necessary. So I would suggest that follow the rule of the jungle. That do not be over enthusiastic, do not be over adventurous while you are there at the forest, because you can risk your life and the life of others as well. Third thing, Arnab, I think with all these visits in deep forest, I have seen very unfortunately that there are potato chips packets which have been thrown here and there, even in the jungle. Beer bottles, plastic bottles, which are just lying on either on the road or on the roadside, even in deep jungles as well. So I think as a nature tourist, as eco tourist, it is our responsibility to ensure that we do not litter the forest that way, because this is not how it should actually be. I mean, I understand there has been quite a lot of initiative being taken from the government side, but then obviously it all depends. We cannot dump everything on the government. We also have our own responsibility. So I think these are a few things that I would really like to pinpoint while I'm talking to any eco-tourist or trying to talk to them around this matter.
No, that's excellent. Actually, thanks for that those the message which should be conveyed actually in more definite terms. And I particularly like your analogy with the cricket. Like cricket is
Yeah,
definitely not all about batting. A genuine lover for the sports love the sports as an overall package, which has
yeah,
cricket, which batting as one element, bowling as one element, fielding as one element. Even if you're a spectator watching the match through your television or through your computer, then probably you like to hear a nice commentary and the
absolutely,
nice analysis and all the digital interventions. Everything is makes the sports interesting, not just
absolutely,
one part of the sports or one particular sport person, one particular player. You may have your favorite players, but that's not all about the sport. Very similar thing with the nature. And if ecotourism, if you consider as a
yeah,
recreation sports, then definitely one species or one particular forest or one particular aspect of it uh, cannot be just uh, your target or your source of a recreation. Then you are probably
absolutely,
a genuine lover of the
yeah.
of ecotourism as a concept. And
Right.
this is exactly what I used I coined actually the term inclusive ecotourism. Um,
Yeah.
that doesn't focus on one particular species or one particular forest or particular habitat. It focuses many things, not just flora and fauna, even the people. People are very much part of it.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
your ecotourism could be only people focused. If those are
Yeah.
indigenous people who are living in the forest, you can have just those people focused ecotourism as well, or you can have your the flora and fauna focused ecotourism as well, and that's what forest and nature offer to us. So thanks for actually all those insight, and we'll listen to others also who have participated. But before that, I'd like to know whether you have any question for me with respect to ecotourism, sustainability, or with respect to this book, whatever you want to ask me, if you have any questions for me.
Sure, and I mean, I have a series of questions. The first thing, first is that this was your third book, and I have read all of them. The first couple you had gifted me, this one I have bought. So, so I think when is the fourth one coming in, Arnab? And what's the topic?
Okay, okay. So Anupam, let me answer this question in a bit different way. Okay, so
Hmm. Hmm.
if you have read this book,
Yeah.
the Pseudo Ecotourism in the Shadow of the Bengal Tiger, and you know that there is the coin. There's a term actually of coin, inclusive ecotourism.
Right. That's right.
Now, of course, uh, in this term, inclusive ecotourism, I have tried to simplify in a way so
Hmm.
that anybody can read and understand, irrespective of their professional and academic background. And I try to explain actually that this concept of inclusive ecotourism through stories of adventurism, through stories of human
Yeah.
inclusion, and those are real stories related to real characters. So this is definitely a popular reading book, but at the same time, I would like to tell you one thing, that essentially this book is an outcome of 10 years of research work, research on
Yeah, Arnab. Yes.
and the related field work. So what do we mean by inclusive ecotourism? I mean, what role inclusive ecotourism plays? Yeah, if I talk from the language of sustainability, an inclusive ecotourism has potential to improve the socio-environmental situation of this planet, which involves people and all living life form and the planet itself.
Yeah.
It can generate employment, it can ensure food security, it can ensure water security, it can uh, uh, provide create an ecosystem resilient to climate change or any other climatic crises. It can definitely prevent biodiversity loss. It can prevent forest loss and all those things. Now, you are a sustainability professional, so you understand that this inclusive ecotourism has a very close relation with a concept called nature-based solution. So,
Yeah.
nature-based solution also is basically designed to provide all those aspects of sustainability which I have just mentioned. Okay, so uh, you have to forgive me for bringing all those technical aspects in this podcast, because this podcast is meant for general people who with I mean, irrespective of their academic and professional background. But I am answering your question in this fashion because you are also a sustainability professional, and therefore uh, my basic agenda is to understand that how much potential this inclusive ecotourism has with respect to nature-based solution and other aspects of sustainability.
Interesting.
When I finished writing this book, I realized there's an ocean of opportunities, but that
Yeah.
need a lot of research to kind of institutionalize this concept of inclusive ecotourism. This
Yeah.
book is definitely written for everybody, because you people need to be hooked into the concept if you have to make this concept successful, and if you have to make this concept get utilized in its fullest potential. But
Yeah.
it's also important to institutionalize that concept, right? through some framework and through involving the sustainability institutions, academics, investors, financial organizations, everybody. So therefore, actually, my aspiration is to do further research on this concept in a long run, in near future. So
Okay.
to answer your question, writing the fourth book is not really my agenda at this point of time. Rather than doing further deep dive in a much more serious way by using the concept of sustainability. So that's what
Absolutely.
I'm doing, and I've actually started doing already about that. And but that doesn't mean that I'm going to be completely detached from reaching out to the general people who are actually the strength of ecotourism. Yeah, the people who
Yeah.
participate in ecotourism, people who have genuine love for nature and wildlife. Almost everybody love nature and wildlife. There's hardly any human being who do not love, and people who are wildlife photographers by their hobby. So my interaction with them will continue because they are the actual buyers of this concept. If this concept has to be inculcated as
Mm.
a mindset change pointer, then
Right.
we have to keep interacting with these people. So that will go in parallel through this type of podcast and participating talk shows. But at the same time, probably there'll be more serious research work uh, by using my professional capacity. That will also continue, and that's my near future plan, rather than writing a fourth book on this.
That is brilliant, Arnav. I think this is great. I mean, just a follow-up question on that. So once you talk about there's a lot of potential on this particular concept. So now, say for example, in regard to fully convert that potential into the reality, obviously you would need some organizations who would actually be working as a custodian to promote the sustainable tourism or ecotourism, so to speak. So, from your perspective as a sustainability professional over about 2 decades now, as I understand. Uh, what are the things that those organizations who are into the business of promoting ecotourism should take into consideration while they are promoting ecotourism?
Okay, okay. So there are two main elements actually, Anupam, of this part as far as the effective as far inclusive ecotourism is concerned. One is institutionalizing that, and another is implementing that. Okay. Now
Mhm.
you have to understand one thing. I mean, you being an ecotourist and have taken part in and many such ecotourism activities in various parts of the world, and many of our audience today who are listening to us and probably will be listening the recording of these are avid, experienced ecotourists and
Right.
wildlife photographers also at the same time. So we all agree that this sector is largely unorganized.
Yeah.
Okay, so by organized ecotourism, what do you mean? At least in the subcontinental context, whatever the forest department does. Okay, forest department in some of the national parks and some of the tiger reserves, they conduct safaris, which we can consider as organized ecotourism. Otherwise, the large part of ecotourism, especially the non-tiger specific ecotourism, if we talk about, which is the more holistic ecotourism or inclusive ecotourism, is largely unorganized. Like one
Yeah.
person understands that particular area, he runs or she runs the homestay, and she is it's very well versed about actually the local species over there, and based on
Yeah.
his or her local network and local understandings, without much conventional training or a professional training, run these ecotourism activities and run successfully. At least that person can make the living out of that, which I have seen. But otherwise, it is unorganized sectors. So I think the first objective should be the institutions should try to make this sector a bit of organized in terms of communicating that what is exactly the purpose of ecotourism.
Hmm.
Okay, so purpose of ecotourism is not just getting mere entertained.
Yeah.
Yeah, so entertainment is definitely an important element of that, but the basic principles of ecotourism is getting participants aware about the ecosystems, the importance of ecosystems, and how the ecosystems actually operates, how the ecosystem functions. and also provide opportunity to experience the authenticity of nature. These are the two
Right.
purposes of ecotourism. And these two purposes may get defeated if the institutional involvement is not there. Okay, because institution can bring actually the necessary knowledge and technology to that.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is if, in fact, that is my current work, which I'm doing actually with in collaboration with some academic institution. So there is basically an academic institutions which is in a process of compiling a book on sustainability, and the people from various sphere of sustainability industry as well as academic with different various expertise are contributing in that. I'll be also probably working on a couple of chapters in this book, and one of those such chapters is sustainable finance. Okay.
Okay.
Before talking about ecotourism, let me just talk about a little bit of sustainable finance over here. That the concept of sustainable finance probably have started surfacing in 1992 onwards. So almost years now, when UNFFI was constituted and we started explaining the financial sectors and all those things. However, if we see the flow of fund towards various sustainability development projects, all the biosphere related sustainability development goals, or more specifically the biodiversity related sustainability development goals, like, if you talk about the life land or life underwater, those sustainability development goals are hugely underfunded. So currently the gap in finance is close to $250 billion across the world. Okay. So this lack of funding is kind of creating obstacles actually to paying maximum focus on the biodiversity aspects of that. Okay.
Right.
How this funding can happen? This funding can happen if there is enough incentive.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you invest, when you see there is a return on that. Okay. And ecotourism has a huge potential to incentivize this aspect of development. Yeah, but for my last 10 years' participation in ecotourism, I have seen huge potential to incentivize that. Incentivize in terms of creating interest among people, these hugely unorganized sectors, the people who are working in this hugely unorganized sector, creating their interest actually to make more, to make their living out of it or to make more money out of it, and also at the same time ensuring more fund flow towards it. Ecotourism can play this role. But as I've said, that a lot more research is needed to present it as in a form of a framework, which can be utilized by institutions, especially the financial institutions who will be investing in this. So this is probably one of the most important need which sustainability professional has to play and the institutions have to play. Now, that doesn't mean the unorganized sectors will do nothing and they're just continuing the status quo because there is no formalized framework or there's no institutionalized from that. That doesn't mean that. So what the people who are actually operating, even in an organized form or semi-organized form, there are a lot of private limited companies are also part of that actually through wildlife photography and through the combination of ecotourism and wildlife photography. They're doing pretty well actually, some of these companies which I know personally. So probably it is their job also at the same time to communicate this concept of the purposes of ecotourism.
Right.
So they also need to play a role in telling people that what are the advantage of considering the nature as a holistic package rather than focusing on one particular species.
Yeah.
And at the same time, explaining actually what are the relation between various components in the nature. You really do not need to be a sustainability scientist for doing that. You already spend a lot of time on the field. No one has better field knowledge than you have. I'm talking about those tour operators actually, or the nature guides. Okay. They
Mm.
understand, actually they're seeing this on day-to-day basis in front of them, how the various components of nature are interacting with each other, various species of nature are interacting with each other, how people and the other non-human life forms are interacting with each other in nature. They're seeing that. So that field knowledge need to be communicated with everybody who is participating in ecotourism activities, not just creating an opportunity for them to see a particular species what they want to see, or creating an opportunity for them to photograph a particular species which they want to photograph. These needs to be done
Right.
because that's probably help them in earning their bread and butter. But at the same time, they have to put a conscious effort in telling the stories of interrelationship between nature and people, and between non-living form and between all the living forms in the nature. So these are the two-prong approach I personally think need to be done. The second one need to be done immediately because we have
Yeah.
knowledge, field knowledge and experience. The first one need a lot of research works, which is the responsibility of the sustainability scientist, I would say.
Right. I think this is brilliant, Arnav. Thanks so much for a very different perspective. So essentially, ecotourism is going to be the lever to pull in funds and pull in interest of people into nature. I think this is one of the best ways of doing it. Thanks so much, Arnav, for writing the book and then obviously sharing this new perspective. Thank you very much for this, Arnav.
Thank you very much, Anupam Bhattacharya, for your time today in the evening. And
Yeah.
so we almost we actually overshot by 5 minutes. We also started late actually because of the
Yeah.
disruption we had at the beginning. So people have joined late for them. Then all of a sudden, few rowdy people joined and then started creating disruptions in our podcast, which I never had actually for the last 5 6 months. I'm doing this, I never had. So I was telling these to my friends Akhil, who has joined from from Amrabad Tiger Reserve and Anupam, that probably we're in right direction and probably we're hitting the net at the right point, and that's why few people are uncomfortable, and that's why they're creating noise. So we take it as a moral boosting for us rather than feeling demotivated. But if
Absolutely.
anybody of you have any questions, we can still bear 5 more minutes actually. And if you have any questions for Anupam or for me, we'll be happy to answer that.
But yeah, so one thing always comes in my mind, as well as even I face this question, right? So
Mhm.
like as a kind of a, we are like general people, right? We don't have like say no scientific background. We are kind of a citizen scientist, you can say, like we just whatever on the field we know. And
Yes.
right, so what we could contribute to the like to this whole conservation process. And see, it is always in my mind, and this kind of question even I also face. I just wanted to take a view from Mr. Anupam as well, like what exactly his thought process on this, like what we can do better.
Okay. So Anupam, if you like to go first, and then I can compliment you if needed.
Sure. So I think this is a very interesting question. So you mean to say that what we all who are not from the sustainability background can actually do about it? I think there's quite a lot that we can do. The first thing is that say for example, if I'm talking about environment as a whole, I think in today's context, what is happening is that there is education with respect to environment that has started from a very young age. I mean, I have a four. I mean, my daughter reads in class 4, and I see the amount of environmental understanding she is developing is quite huge. So this is good for the next generation. So I think for all of us who did not have that opportunity to study environment in our childhood days, I think we should use our common sense to the greatest extent possible. Now, if I'm talking about the finiteness of the nature, so therefore, whenever we are using it, the small habits that we can inculcate in our daily lives. It could be as simple as keeping the tap in off condition while we are not using it, or probably reducing the brightness of your mobile phone, so to speak, because so that the battery can run at longer, which essentially reduces the energy conservation. I mean, which leads to energy conservation, or probably keeping a tub behind your AC cabinet so that you can actually collect the water and you can use it for a very different purpose for which you can actually use it. So I think small habits we can inculcate from home itself. And if we accumulate it at a larger picture globally, we would see that there's a lot of saving and there's a lot of respect that we would be able to bestow on the environment. Arnav, if you wish to add a few
Yeah,
points here.
yes. I would like to add one thing, and particularly, that from ecotourism point of view, if I say, and to answer Suchi's question, that how someone who is not academically trained in sustainability can contribute, is of course having that holistic mindset. Just participate in ecotourism.
Yeah.
Just participate in ecotourism and try to do a little bit of research work before participating in ecotourism, so that you can find those places where authentic services, authentic ecotourism experience are provided, like local nature guide, rather than going with a fancy, westernized private company who run ecotourism. You may need to do that also, depending upon where you want to go. But there are a lot of opportunities actually where you can directly work with local community who are running these ecotourism services from their home, from their village home, where running their homestay, providing their home cooked food. They have vast knowledge of the local flora and fauna. So try to work with them, and that will be a tremendous contribution. And Suchi, I know you personally. I mean, you are a wildlife photographer, and for others' understanding, that I have learned, I'm a sustainability trained person, but I have learned a lot about wildlife from Suchi because I traveled with her, especially about the flora and fauna, and particularly her interest about herpetofauna, which is basically reptiles, amphibians, and insects. Okay, so Suchi is someone who definitely likes tiger, but her area of exploration is always those areas where you can find more reptiles and amphibians and insects. And she goes to those areas where the local people provide this ecotourism services, which we call authentic experience of nature or the authenticity of nature.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Suchi, yourself is an example. Actually, you just show other people that whatever information you have gathered, whatever photographs you have taken, and whatever you have learned from the fields, and share with others. And a lot of people who have not done this, they will be from the beginning will be in the right direction, rather than chasing one particular animal, whether it's tiger or elephant or whatever it is. So that, as you have called yourself a citizen scientist, definitely you are a citizen scientist, and you are already playing your role, and just keep doing it, I would say.
Thank you. Thanks, Arnav, for that background. And yes, definitely. So one thing I just wanted to see here, what challenge I face. So whenever I talk to the people, the age range below 15, 16 years is very easy, and they understand very clearly, and they are very enthusiastic about it. Even I have a 15-year-old daughter. She is par, or she is like more than me also, like in the conservation, that water conservation and everything, electricity conservation, everything.
Yes.
But when it comes to adult, even at home only, I can't handle my adults actually. So how to deal with the outside? So anyway, that's a typically challenging. I think all of you might have faced the similar thing, right? So yeah, my challenge is with handling with the adults actually, more than the kids.
I agree. Yeah. So Dr. Banerjee, I mean, we'll please go ahead, and we'd like to listen to you as well.
Yes, thank you. Actually, before I go to my question, actually, as you said, citizen science is indeed the future of environmental conservation, right? While listening to Hridayama Nasire, I was actually I have read your book, and I actually recalled your reference that you draw to Prithu of Madhukari by Buddha Guha.
Right.
And again, in your book, you had used a particular phrase called, if I'm not mistaken, ecotourism menu. Right. I think it's a question to both of you. If we want to reduce this entire spectrum of ecological conservation, getting reduced to something called ecotourism menu, do we have to change our mindset in a way that we are we are glamour worshippers rather than we are utility worshippers. I mean, tiger, they are apex predators. They are on the top of the food chain. To conserve the tigers,
Yeah.
we need to conserve the entire food chain.
Yeah.
Do we tend to forget this? And my next question is not directly on ecotourism, but since you drew the reference of sustainability finance, I mean issues like, or rather domains like sustainability finance, climate finance, green finance. Do you think mainstream academics related to environmental science, environmental management, since I'm from academics, do you think mainstream academics still, I mean, they need to embrace these areas as future career aspects for the students, for the future students?
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
Anupam, maybe I'll just you can compliment me. Actually, you can pitch in wherever is needed. I'll just
Yeah.
first take your second question. Actually, I mean, this is the time. Actually, academics have to step up. Academic has to come forward. And I'm telling you, Dr. Banerjee, from an industrial perspective, both of us are not academics. We work for industry. Actually, industries. If I represent industries, actually, holistically over here, I'd say industries at academics right now, because what we need right now is that just mere reporting of whatever we are doing in terms of tree plantation or in terms of replacing one vehicle by another vehicle or other fossil fuel based vehicle by electronic vehicle, or by just calculating actually that by putting off tap how much water consumption have reduced, and reporting that will just give you kind of satisfaction, and we'll be keep living in the false sense of security. What we need right now is the real technological intervention, technological innovations. If we need to replace something by something, then how is that possible, and how is that actually going to solve the problem we are facing actually? So, and that is not, these technological innovations are not possible without academicians, without academic people. Number one. So this is, I'm talking about very high level actually research work. This, another thing is that academics are creating the future generation. They have the direct influence on future generation, right? As Suchi was saying, that it's always easy to dealing with people who are not yet experienced the the ups and downs of materialistic world. They comes with much more fresh mind and fresh perspectives, and we need to influence them. We need to guide them in the right directions, and that is not possible without the help of people like you who are teaching actually in colleges and institutions. So therefore, the academic curricula also need to be reimagined. Academic curriculum environment need to be reimagined. Academic curriculum economics need to be reimagined. See, these our growth addiction economics, which we have been following for many years actually, since the industrial revolution happened in 19th century, even now, 20th century, even today's economic students, their first learning of economics is the growth curve, the exponential growth curve. So that concept of economics need to be reimagined, and we have to probably step aside from this growth addiction to a little bit of growth agnostic. Therefore, this reimagining of academic curricula is needed in sustainability front and in economics front. And I mean, who can do this rather than an academic, right? Reimagining is also need to be led by academic. The imparting the knowledge to the future generation also can be done by academic. And if there any research is needed, which brings actually technological innovation to deal with sustainability, for that also we need academics. So you academics have a tremendous role to play, and this collaboration between industry and academics is the need of the hour to deal with this situation. So this is the second, I answered your second question. The first question is, yes, the glamour, and I mean, I like to confess over here, Dr. Banerjee and everybody over here, despite being trained in sustainability and being in this profession for 20 years, and if I consider 10 years of academic, background, so it's probably 30 years altogether. Still, 10 years back when I started my ecotourism, I started as a tiger chaser. I was only looking for tiger. Well, only wanted to take photograph. Why I was looking for that? Because I wanted to be the most interesting person in the room, which I mentioned in my book. I wanted to be the talking point in my social circle. So we humans, especially the urban, affluent class, privileged class, who have a lot of disposable income, we always get carried away by this pseudo glamour or the so-called glamour. We have this natural attraction towards that. So therefore, yes, there's a need for change in mindset. It's very much needed. Sometimes you need to learn hard lessons to change that mindset. Sometimes you uh, uh, experience, actually, you read, you see other people's experience, and then you learn. Whatever way, that need to be changed. There's no doubt.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I actually, I mean, you have mentioned in your book as well that that capitalist form of society needs to fuse with ecotourism for future conservation.
Hmm. Absolutely.
So where Adam Smith meets Selim Ali, maybe.
Yes. Agree with that. Okay, so any other questions from anybody? Anupam, if you'd like to say anything?
No, I think Arnab, keep doing the great job. I think this is brilliant, and not only in terms of the book, but the future plans that you talked about, exploring more into research and development with respect to using ecotourism as a key lever to promote sustainability. I think this book is a book of sustainability, Arnab, at the end. I mean, what I could relate to. So please continue that, and thanks so much back once again for the lovely book and all the conversations that we're having. Thank you, Arnab.
Thank you very much, Anupam, and thanks to everybody who could
Each one of you, yeah.
their busy schedule and join this podcast. And in future, we'll be having more such conversation and discussions to play our part and to create little impact which we can create, which we can make actually for this planet. Thank you very much.